welcome again officially to the June 1st Ohio EPA Solid Waste Management District Work Group. First up, we have a few Ohio EPA updates. Is Michelle on? Hey, Michelle.
Hey, I'm here. Okay, so I'm going to do some rule updates for DMWIM, and I'm Michelle Mountjoy. I'm the rules coordinator, for those of you who don't know me. And most importantly, our most important rule update that I'm going to talk about today are the scrap tire rules. And you may have heard me go on and on about these rules for several months, but later today, agency reps and I will be going to a JCAR, which is the Joint Committee on Agency Rule Review, and those rules are going to be heard at that meeting today. And what that means for those who aren't familiar is it's on JCAR's agenda, and unless barring any testimony from interested parties or any questions from the representatives on the committee, then those rules will complete their JCAR jurisdiction so that JCAR has 65 days from when we file to the end. They'll complete that jurisdiction in next week, middle of the month. So then we can final file the rules, and we'll be looking at a target effective date for new scrap tire rules, 6/30. That's our goal. So that's at the end of this month, since it's June. And hopefully you are all signed up for the listserv. Our listserv, we have a lot of different lists that you might be interested in, but there is a scrap tire list, and I would encourage you to sign up for our listserv because we will be having several implementation workshops, webinars, conferences, that kind of things. We haven't quite figured out exactly how we're going to work the implementation rollout, but we are going to have a lot of implementation things available so that you can learn how the new rules are organized, where things went, what's new, what's gone. So please sign up for our listserv if you haven't already. You'll also get notified when the rules are final filed, and that's helpful because then you can know about when they'll become effective and if we met our target date. And I saw that chat pop up. Yep, I will post a link on how to sign up for the listserv in the chat once I'm finished. And yeah, and if you ever have any questions about your account, please reach out to me. I can always on the back end go into your listserv account and help you mitigate any issues. So sign up if you can, but if you're having trouble, contact me. The only other thing I'll talk about so that I can give the mic over to the next person is along with those that listserv vibe, we do have, if you're signed up for our solid waste rules listserv, then in the next few weeks, you'll be seeing that an interested party draft is going to be released for Rule 19, which is our landfill operations rule. So it may not be of too much interest to you all, but might be if you have a solid waste landfill in your district. So there's going to be some small changes to that rule, but one of the big things is it's also going to be reorganized like the scrap tire rule. So it's moving from 2719 into a new chapter, and that's going to be a little bit of an adjustment. So you might want to sign up for that list as well and get notified when that goes out for comment so you can review and see what you think. Well, Lindsay, I'll leave unless I have anyone has any questions for me right now.
I see none. Thank you so much. Okay. And we'll get those links out into the chat, and we'll also include them in our follow-up just to make sure people get on those listservs. Thanks. Okay. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Bye.
Michelle, I put it in the chat. Just make sure I got the right one, please.
Thanks, Ernie.
Okay.
All right. Next up is Angel. He's going to give us a really quick, brief update on our Swiffer project.
Good morning, everyone. For those of you that you uploaded it, Lindsay? Can everyone see the presentation, the slide?
Yes, Angel.
Yeah, great. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Angel Arroyo Rodriguez. I'm currently in the composting program. At one point, I was in the planning unit too. What I want to share with you some great news about the US EPA Solid Waste Infrastructure for Recycling, or SWIFR grant. I'm sure that at some point you might have heard about it. This specific grant is only for states and territories and is non-competitive. And we applied for it, and we were allocated $450,000. And this money will be available in September. And we have up to 3 years to complete the projects. However, this money can only be used for these three categories here. One is to develop or update plans to advanced consumer materials management, develop and strengthen data collection, and support implementation of some projects. This has been this grant started in December, has been a whole whirlwind of when we need to submit information to US EPA. So we haven't been able to do a full outreach to you guys, but we had to submit our work plan of how we're gonna use this money in May 31st, just yesterday. And so we're not able to get to all of you, but we did contact some solid waste management districts to give us a quick review of what we were trying. But what we submitted is that we intend to use this money to do a waste characterization, a statewide one, to update the waste characterization done in 2004. And more exciting, at least for me, and that's the reason that we're talking with you guys today, is that we are going to engage in doing a comprehensive statewide organic materials management plan that will be like, think of it as an addendum to the solid waste state management plan. So what we have in kind of timelines, yesterday we submitted the work plan. It's not perfect. We still need have a couple months to fine tune it and work with US EPA. Our goal is to issue an RFP or RFPs for this work in October 1st, and to have the project start in February 1st of 2024. But in order to issue that RFP by October 1st, because we want to do it as quickly as possible, we're going to have to do some work ahead, and this is when we're going to need your input and assistance. So we need your help determining or developing the list of what are the materials that are going to be characterized. In terms of if we want to do some categories, deciding minimum sampling locations, and any other considerations that you want us to have, and then of course reviewing the RFP before it is issued. We don't have all those details today, but we want to make sure you know that we will be reaching out to all of you this summer with additional information and to get your input. So hopefully we get everything ready, and as soon as we get the money, we can issue that. Any other questions, you can contact Lindsay and Jeff or Chet. We are, the four of us are working together, getting this proposal, this work plan put together for US EPA. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Angel. That was a good presentation and overview of our SWIFR program. Next, we have Matt Hiddle. He's going to give an update on the contamination grant.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you all. It's great to have so many people participating today. Just want to give a quick update. I'm not going to really talk about Athens-Hocking since Jane will be presenting here in a little bit, but the 3 projects are underway for the drop-off contamination project. Just a couple weeks ago on May 15th, we were up in Mansfield seeing the material that was from a number of different drop-offs in the Ottawa, Sandusky, Seneca Solid Waste District. They did their pre-audit, which showed about 27% contamination, which about 11.5 of that was plastic bags and bag material, as well as film. So I don't think that's surprising to anybody, but so about 8% alone was just bagged material. So that's something that we definitely want to do. Mahoning County, I think, is just wrapping up today their initial pre-audit information, getting their baseline data from their compology, which we had a presentation on using that technology recently. And then starting, I think next week, they'll be getting all their information cards out and doing their engagement training, actually doing the one-on-one engagement with people in starting in the middle of June. So I think we'll have follow-up with more engagement on that in July, and hopefully we'll be getting, we're really hopeful. I know we're slated to have Samantha, who's here. I don't know if you want to chime in on anything, as well as I don't know if Jill's coming, but we're hoping they are slated to present, I think everybody, to present at the Partners Conference in October down in Cincinnati. So you'll get hopefully a full recap of the results of these of this project. So excited about it. And like I said, I'll let Jane talk about her information. Ernie, I was trying to get information. Did anybody find it? I can do that right now if you want to have the floor. I know there's been a lot of questions about the due date, which is today for ADRs, and the fact that we got our data out so late this year. It is a statutory due date, so we are not able to extend it in any formal way. I can say that there aren't really repercussions, and we don't have any plans to send out any notices of violations, at least for a period of time. So just reach out to your planner and let them know if you aren't going to be able to meet the due date today. And if you didn't see the email, the scrap tire data will not be available for at least for a while. So as soon as we get that, we will enter the data when we do our reviews. So don't be waiting on the scrap tire data. Everything else should have been sent out. I know it's even been posted on our website. So please refer to the MRF, the big box store, and the compost data that's up there.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. Next up is Ernie. He's going to give us some MMAC updates.
Hello, everyone.
I got it.
Got a mic and have in my mouth and still enunciate, and right now I'm up to 3, so let me know how I do. Based on some things that we've discussed at MAC, we've had a couple discussions recently about how to communicate between MRF, solid waste districts, and communities when there's a change in the material mix collected through a service. And so we have formed a subcommittee to talk about that. We have all of the major MRFs, some solid waste district representatives on there. Our first meeting for that is going to be June 5th. I'm not sure how often we'll be meeting or what the plan is at this point. It's just our introductory meeting to get ourselves started. And then for those of you who are not aware, when we did the 2020 state plan, we included a provision in the state plan that would allow solid waste districts to request a waiver from having to meet that 80% threshold for achieving goal 1. We never did come up with a procedure for that or standards. So we formed a work group to discuss that as well. I'm working right now to try to get the first date for that meeting. I'm looking at June 15th right now, but we may have to change that depending on people's availability. So just stay tuned for both of those things. We'll have more information to share later.
Thanks, Ernie.
Oops, I did it again.
All right. Next up is Erica Tucker, who has some updates from Oswego. Thanks for joining us, Erica.
Thank you. I don't have a whole lot. Oswego met on May the 11th. We had the Shine the Light campaign come from Dave Yost's office. So we had someone speak at that meeting on that. And then we have a meeting coming up with you all, an in-person meeting, we hope, on August the 10th. So we hope that you guys can be able to attend that meeting. Other than that, we don't have a whole lot of other updates at this time.
Thank you. We are planning on having that meeting as an in-person, so thank you for confirming that. All right, now it's the beef of our agenda. So we have first up for our first presentation, and I'm really excited about learning more about this, is the behavior change study that was conducted right here in Ohio. I think it was like last year, maybe-ish. And we have Elizabeth Sushler from the Ohio, the Recycling Partnership to present on that program. Thank you.
Hello. Is my audio working okay?
It is. And then you can just hit the share button and you can share your screen if you would like.
Okay. I did not have that ready, but I will talk to you while I'm getting it ready. Thanks everyone for being here, and thanks for being such a good partner. I think that we all at the Recycling Partnership very much appreciate Ohio EPA and the many great projects we've been doing together. So one of the projects that we'll talk about today is, actually two of the projects we'll talk about today are from Ohio. And I am not as adept at Teams. Bear with me a minute here. Great. So what the Recycling Partnership is up to related to behavior change is in August, we launched the Center for Sustainable Behavior and Impact. Oh, just to confirm, you can see my slides, yes?
Yes, we can.
Okay, because I can't see you anymore. Okay, so the some of you may have seen some of this information. I know that Joel and Michelle Metzler and Jill Martin may have, and Samantha Longshore may have shared some of this, but we will just dive right in. The Center for Sustainable Behavior really came to fruition out of the Recycling Partnership was working very hard on carts. We were working very hard on reducing contamination, and we really needed to dig into the people side of the stakeholders if we're ever going to get to sustain circular economy. So we work across the industry, and I'm sure many of you know this, with the brands and packages and work on making sure that things are designed for, labeled for, and that they continue to have strong markets so that things are actually recycled. We've been active in policy. We've been active in the FTC, giving FTC feedback on their green guides. One of the other things we've done is to give MRF grants, and I know that one of the MRF grants went to polypropylene there in the Cincinnati area. What we want is to not see things that can be recycled ending up in the landfills. So despite public support, half of the recyclables, residential recyclables, are lost to the landfills due to behavior gaps. So I heard someone mentioned contamination and bagged recyclables. Good recyclables being trapped in bags is one of the things that we have been most focused on in the recent years. So all of that material ends up totaling about 15 million tons of recyclables and 63 million metric tons of carbon dioxide. Therefore, we really need to address that intention action gap. So people support recycling, but they're confused. Half say that plastic bags and styrofoam can go in household recycling. A smaller number, but many don't know that food doesn't belong in the recycling cart. And as you roll out the composting there in more communities, hopefully that will take care of that. And people will know there's a specific bin for that food that they don't want to go to the landfill. Recycling matters. Confidence in decline. I don't know if you've heard that from your residents, but a growing number of people are worried that their recyclables are not being made into new things. And then the other kind of main tentpole for us is that communication from purchase to disposal is critical. So we can't just wait till like the moment of decision is incredibly ripe time to give someone information, but we can't just wait till that moment. So 75% did not recall receiving communication about their recycling program in our Recycling Confidence Index. So I'm sure you're familiar with this. Our ops team very much has done a lot of work to better understand what is generated and what is captured in the different conditions, different types of collection. So you can see if you only have drop off, you're really not getting all of the material by a long shot. If you add curbside opt-in, you start to get closer to that. If you have bins that are available to everyone, and then if you have carts that are available to everyone, then if you get to the best possible outcomes are curbside carts with good education. So this is evidence-based and tailored engagement. And I know that your programs are working a lot on that. So the average household generates about 750 to 800 pounds of recyclables each year. Now that's an average. So there are programs who have households who have even more than that. So we want to make sure that they have good access and good education and engagement that resonates with them and is relevant to them. So the Center for Sustainable Behavior and Impact has been working hard on the studies, and so the research includes surveys, qualitative research, ethnographic research, and then taking ideas, message testing, and taking ideas into actual communities, routes, and households to see what works. So some of what works from our research is the systematic approach called Feet on the Street. I know many communities in Ohio have used this approach to reduce contamination. I know Jill and Samantha are on the call with us today. Jill and Samantha, anything to add here about the impacts in Ohio?
I think I'll just mention, if anyone is interested in seeing the results of our Feet on the Street program, let me know. We have a study that shows, which communities we worked in and what results we're seeing. And the good news out of this is it was very impactful, and that communities and districts in Ohio have the opportunity to continue this work and look at our contamination toolkit, and it provides a step-by-step guide, and you can see the results that we experienced in the communities we selected back in 2019. So if anyone's interested in that, we're happy to share those results.
Thanks, Jill. Jill and Samantha are a wealth of knowledge on all things recycling, so please reach out to them if you have questions. The Recycling Partnership, as I said, launched this center. The four kind of pillars of work around the center as we launched were restoring confidence in recycling, advancing equitable solutions. Not everyone is able to recycle and is served recycling information that works for them, and then increase the capture and participation and decrease contamination. And so our launch was made possible by the Walmart Foundation and the Milliken and Company Foundation. So in just, I would say, a year and a half, we've worked on a number of projects. You can see here on this slide that more than 10,000 people were surveyed, and it's probably closer to 100 interviews. People were interviewed either in ethnography, focus groups, or individual interviews. In our audience segmentation, which we'll go over, we found 5 types of single family recyclers. In our equity gap analysis, which we'll go over a little bit, the demographics of our national database, we dug into that to uncover persistent inequalities in recycling services. Our confidence index this year was our inaugural confidence index. So we hear a lot of news. I'm sure you guys hear a lot of news about how people feel about recycling and what they're concerned about. So we wanted to do our own ongoing research to make sure we had specific numbers that we could point to prepare our programs and our resources, and also to make sure we could respond to media inquiries with stats. We also had the opportunity through our inclusion fund to interview BIPOC residents, Black, Indigenous, people of color. So as groups of lower numbers, they are always less represented in any national general population survey. So we were excited to be able to hear from people of color as a single group. And then ethnography, we went into the homes. Some of those homes were in Columbus, Ohio. Thank you, Columbus. And we'll hear more about that. And then the packaging and labeling with the FTC green guides being evaluated with our national database and the need for to solve for the check locally. We wanted to better understand how people were understanding packaging and labeling. So we took all of those results and shaped interventions that happened in 23 interventions in 7 jurisdictions in about 50,000 households. And you can see there in Chicago, we tested motivational messaging. We also included educational messaging in that intervention, in that set of interventions, and in-home bins. In Reynoldsburg, Ohio, again, the motivational messaging and the education. And then Hamilton, New Jersey, we tested motivational interviewing, which is a tactic that's specific kind of interviewing that's used in public health and in voting. And so we wanted to see if that would be effective for recycling. Collier County, again, we looked at the in-home bins. Baldwin Park, California, and Elgin, Illinois, we replicated the education and in-home bins. And in Cincinnati, we replicated the motivational messaging, education, and in-home bins. So in Sarasota County, we launched a pilot that unfortunately was sort of off track due to hurricane. So we continued to do the kinds of research we could do there as their program got back online. We did some interviewing, and we have a case study on the high participation that exists in Sarasota and the capture and quality. So all of these great, you might have many questions about what all of that previous slide included. So all of these great tests and research have been wrapped up into reports, and those are coming online soon. Our knowledge report will be released in just 2 weeks, June 20th, 2.5 weeks, June 20th. And you can, that QR code is active if you want to sign up to receive, directly receive all of those things as those reports as they come online. Another thing that we're able to create with the grant, our inaugural grant, was an online hub, the Recycling Solutions Program Solutions Hub. So it is just for recycling programs. And what you see there in front is a set of online courses, which we're continuing to grow and continuing to roll out. So if you have interest in being an early adopter and helping us sort of walk through and make sure that these online tools are working for you, we would appreciate as many early adopters as we could get. So that QR code will do that, or you can email me, eSchussler@recyclingpartnership.org. So market research. So the market research and pilots were incredibly helpful. We have seen in research that in-person door knocking is the ultimate thing to do to have behavior change. So we needed to try it. We knew that recycling is kind of competing with trash in the home. So we wanted to do ethnography. We wanted to talk with people and follow the journey of recyclables through the households. So using motivational messaging to improve recycling behaviors. that was one of our main test areas. And what we did is we had, coming out of some of our quantitative research, we had the opportunity to test, like to message test some concepts built out. From those concepts, we pulled them back and developed even more concepts. We hired a couple of agencies and freelance designers to continue developing those concepts. We also have in-house designers who were contributing to that. We took all of that work and narrowed it down to these 3 top messages, and then we tested them against each other in Chicago, Illinois, and in Reynoldsburg, Ohio. I think they were also tested in, some of them were tested in Cincinnati. So the successful protocols and resources were are added to that online hub as a course. And so that will come online shortly. But what you see here is we tested an empathetic message, that we get it, recycling can be confusing. We tested that against a logic message, because in our focus groups, once we started talking to people, they were like, you know, I don't really know what happens to my recyclables when they leave my house. And so I'm curious about that. And I want to know about the impacts of recycling. So we created this logical messaging around recycling makes sense, to help people, to reassure people that their recycling has a process and that it has positive outcomes. And then we tested, this is something I didn't think we would ever be able to do. I've always said that I think everyone should have to visit a landfill. I will say that the landfill I visited there in Ohio was not this one that is in the picture, and is so incredibly well managed that I don't think it has the impact of being this stark image of this emotional message of we have to do better. So I'm just curious, I'm going to pause there, and I'm just curious, I think many of you may have seen the results, but what do you think, won? What do you think outpaced the others? And I can't take myself off to see your faces. There we go. Anyone have ideas? And you can drop them in the chat of empathetic, logical, or emotional. Great. 2 votes for empathy, 3 votes for empathy. Excellent. So a lot of times when we're talking to communities, and I know that you know this, I like to use the phrase, you have $1 in a day. You have a big issue to solve, and you have $1 and you have a day to do it. So that's kind of the mindset I have in mind when I'm trying to find a solution for communities to use. So the emotional message and the empathetic message did outperform the logical message. But I will say many professional recyclers, Louise Bruce, the managing director of the center, presented these results at a I think it was a Waste Expo. And I just talked to someone who was in the audience, and he said, I did not believe it. And so many people working in recycling and working in recycling for years, hardcore recyclers, they're interested in the stats. They're interested in the factoids about recycling, what it becomes, that sort of thing. But the infrequent recyclers, the people who are kind of on the fence, they're confused, and we need to meet them where they are. So the empathy and emotional message outperformed the others. You'll see in Chicago, and this chart, I find this chart a little hard to read, but you'll see in Chicago that the control group recycling went down, But in the 3 groups that represented the emotional and empathy messages, those 3 on the right there went up. That work was also replicated, that work was also replicated in Reynoldsburg, Ohio. And again, we saw the emotional message and the empathy message outperforming the logic message, especially compared to the control. So in one of the routes, the empathetic message was 38% increase, and then went on to be 51%. And the results, as we continue to watch them, have been sustained improvements. So good results there with the motivational messaging. Any questions about that before I go on to the next?
And Elizabeth, this is Andrew from SWACO.
Andrew, I know your voice.
Like specifically, this empathetic is empathy for the confusion that people have about what is and isn't recyclable.
Exactly. So as opposed to going out and telling people like, oh, it's really good, you should do it, recycling has good impacts, that sort of thing, what we want to do is to get to what is really stopping people and that confusion about what is recyclable and what is not recyclable, and having confidence in themselves that they can do the right thing. Consumers have, or residents have spoken to the, I could ruin a whole load. I've heard I could ruin a whole load if I do, if I recycle improperly. And so in some of our contamination, like the tagging and the messages of your mistakes can be detrimental to, more detrimental than you think. People have gotten the message that they're probably doing it wrong. I think I saw a headline yesterday that was literally that same thing again. If you're recycling, you're probably doing it wrong. And so we have made people nervous and have anxiety. And so that confusion, how can we meet their confusion with answers and support to get them to make the right decisions? These designs, of course, will be available to everyone to use, but if you don't want to use these designs, I encourage you to take these concepts and consider using the concepts.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. So in-home recycling systems, we've all heard twin the bin, and we wanted to know, like, what is the journey of the recyclables through the homes? Should we be giving everyone these in-home bins that we've tested? And what we found was that it depends. It's you're working in recycling when the answer is it depends. So the study overview, we went into 16 households in San Diego, a mix of single family and multifamily, and 16 in Columbus, Ohio. We spent 2 hours talking to the group or family, and then we went through recycling with them. What happens in your home, what works, what doesn't work. What we found were households are left to develop their own systems for recycling. And you think about your house and your recycling, you may have one of these. What we found was centralized bin free, that some people put things by the trash or put things on the counter and collect them in smaller groups and take them outside more frequently. We found that centralized twin bin, where there's bins in the pull-out cabinet in the kitchen. Those were in larger households and not in smaller households. And then we had the out of sight isolated. So what you see there is a laundry room, that recycling happens away from the kitchen, away from other rooms, behind a door. And then we saw a distributed gathering, which is there are a number of bins around the house, the twinned bin mindset around the house. And what we found is that there was no one that really outperformed the others as a system on its own. but the users themselves, meaning the person we were interviewing and sometimes the people who weren't in the interview, it depended on sort of the participation. There needs to be a champion in the home that really is a positive impact. But if people don't have the signals for recycling, if it's put away, sometimes the people who are best at it can have the recycling be put away, as long as the patterns are simple enough. But it doesn't have to be any one way, as long as people are adopting the practice of using whatever system exists. Unusual order for these slides, pardon my pause, but the in-field pilots in Cincinnati, we also were trying those in-home bins. So the 5 mailers went out to all intervention groups, and then what we found was that those prompts, those mailers, significantly increased participation, and the in-home bins contributed to a small increase in set out beyond the mailers by themselves. So for the people who need something, sometimes the bin is like they just haven't gotten themselves into a system. The bin can trigger that setting up a system. And then the mailers, if you don't have the system working, the mailers are just going to go by you. But if you have the system and the mailers, it will prompt more recycling. So the Cincinnati pilot, Cincinnati had some of these bins left from an earlier study that they had done. And so we wanted to first try, what does it take? Like we have these things, these bins available. How can we best use them? Who needs them? How can we best get them to people? So we found that 20% of households requested an in-home bin from an easy mailer that went to them. So it was a business reply mailer where their address was already on it, and they just had to tear it off and send it back in. Most of those bin requests came from that mailer. So that mailer is a tactic that is successful, that could be used for anything. We've seen that over and over again. So if you have maybe households that don't have carts or households that need something, that business reply mailer, just shameless plug for the business reply mailer. Some residents preferred their own system. They didn't need a bin. We saw that also in Sarasota focus groups. I will say that in Sarasota focus groups, the bin was slightly different. It was a little bit smaller. And we sat through an entire group of people who say they didn't really need one. I think one person in the group had ended up with one. Then when we came into the focus group and said, oh, we've got these extra containers, we don't want to take them home. Does anyone want one? They all wanted one. One person took 2. So just a plug for people sometimes say things different than what they actually do. So you can see here, and I think these slides are all be shared with you. You can see here what some of the comments were. People just, they really need some help setting up a system. Some folks do and some folks don't. So how do we really hope that you will get involved is, as I said, signing up to be an early adopter of the Recycling Program Solutions Hub. And then also we're constantly looking at studying recycling behaviors. So if you can partner with us on studying a particular behavior, or if you have results that you want to share, we're going to be adding a library to the library on that Solutions Hub, what's worked for others. Maybe you have a study that you've read that you want to share. We'd love to see it. So that QR code works to get you in the right mailing list. So Michelle was going to be here with you today, but you got me instead, and all of my sort of struggles with words. I've been on the road traveling, so pardon my word struggles, but it is so great to spend time with you. And if anyone has any questions, please let me know.
We do have a little bit of time for questions, so if anybody has some questions, either speak up or raise your hand or put them in the chat. It looks like you did a fantastic job. We do have one question. Was there a difference in data between rural versus urban communities?
So it's a great question. The motivational message across Reynoldsburg outperformed the Chicago. In Chicago, we carefully selected households that were in, we didn't go into the segmentation today, but we carefully selected households that were in the what we were calling less dedicated recyclers. So there's 5 segments and 3 of them are less dedicated. So we did see a little bit less performance in Chicago, but it also was not community-wide as it was in Reynoldsburg. It was, selected to be there's 3 maybe, there's 3 not, I call them not yet, the 3 not yet types of households. I think these slides are, I can certainly make them available if you don't have them. And then for deciding on the graphics for the empathy and the emotion, it really was, we went through message development testing with an audience and continued to refine it. At one point, the empathy message was blue and green, and we switched it from internally we call them the McDonald's colors. We switched them from the happy colors to the more blue and green earthy colors and switched them back, and have found that the colorful message is the best match for that empathy message. I would say that choosing the style, empathy, a good match for empathy is cartoon, but I'm sure there are other ways to approach that. And then the emotion, it's a landfill, but we exaggerated the sort of bright lights and the bright futuristic look of it. So a lot of it was intuitive, all informed by the focus groups and the research. But if you're working on something and want feedback also, I always love to see folks' ideas.
Elizabeth, can I jump in for a minute?
Yes, please, Jill.
I'd just like to share that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but everything I've seen and when I talked to Michelle is that the Cincinnati and Reynoldsburg results were very impactful and pretty staggering as far as the amount of increase in participation and increase in capture. With Michelle coming on board from the private sector, she said she's not seen results like this ever, to see the impacts that she saw in Cincinnati and Reynoldsburg for increasing participation and capture. And so that's really great news. But I said, all right, let's roll this out to the world. And she said, whoa, like this is 2 data points for Reynoldsburg and Cincinnati. What she would love to have is more communities selected to replicate these studies to ensure that we've got it right. And it wasn't just Reynoldsburg and Cincinnati are fantastic already, but we want to replicate and see if we can get those same results. Is that right, Elizabeth?
Well said, and great additions. I think that isn't like 100% true. I get excited about the directions, and Michelle is a good balance for me. So if there is someone who wants to retest this, we would on a couple of routes, we would very much love to do that. And then the other thing I would say, like when we tried that, I guess that's why I gave the shameless plug for the business reply mailer. I came into this having, my first job was working in mail order, and we used business reply cards and saw a good result there. And I was like, I wonder if they'll work in recycling. And 20 to 25% response rate from those, which compared to other industries is like 2 to 3% response rate is a good response. So yeah, I think the results overall in the different tactics and the different outcomes were very positive. And I want, you know, I hesitate to say it's surprisingly so, but I think that's the honest truth. Is it was surprising how well they went. And you know, in recycling, I always say there's not a silver bullet, but these approaches, these deep understandings are helping us get to a place where we are doing better. So one of the things I would say is communities have not had the opportunity, they don't have the budgets to reach out often enough. When we do reach out, we're doing it kind of in a blanketed way. So what we're working on is how to maybe get the different kinds of people, different solutions or different approaches. And then the other thing I would say is the measurement. It is challenging to try something and not be able to measure it. So the measurement on these was, you know, really validated our feelings of like, okay, we think this is a good approach, but we're not really sure. But that said, we're always open to trying things that, you know, seem a stretch too far, because we just don't know yet, because I don't think we have the measurements and history of trying different tactics and different messages as a recycling industry.
Elizabeth, I've got one quick question for you, which is on the, I'm familiar with the Reynoldsburg work, obviously, because it happened in our district, but the bin giveaway one, I think you said it had 5. Did it have 5 weekly? Did it have 5 messages that they received? And were the non-bin offer messages, were they the kind of empathy? Were they some of that? Was there overlap between the kind of empathetic, the motivational stuff and this bin giveaway, or were the messages completely different?
Yeah, that's a great question. So like when a couple of years ago, we were working with Sue in Cincinnati to say, like, to be as cost effective as possible. Like, you know, we tried the first iteration of this was we tried giving away bins to people, just here's your bin. Then we tried digital advertising, because we all want social and digital to work, because it seems like it should work, and we haven't yet cracked that. So giving them to some people, offering them through a digital or social, you know, get your free in-home bin here, and then the mailer. The mailer outperformed the request against the digital. The results of participation and set out between giving them to someone and the people who opted in, the people who requested them outperformed the people who just received them. When we talked to people in focus groups, the people who just received them, some of them were like, I don't have space for it, I already had something. So like, not everyone needs this in-home bin. So that's why we're excited about giving people the choice. But then we saw like the results were good, but they weren't great. What else would it take? And we thought more conversation. We knew from our other research that people are just, even if they had it, they just still didn't have the invitation and the push, the gentle push to get them to do more with their new bin. So what we did see was those 5 different, those layered prompts, I would call them, those 5 prompts really worked. And they were a mix of education and motivation, and they were cart tags and mailers.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to take a minute to thank you. I think everything that you've done is really helping everyone across the United States move forward. And that's exactly true. The districts don't have the funds to do these types of projects, but it's very valuable information. And we appreciate all of that work. Again, the slides will be, I'll get them from you and then we'll get them sent out to the group after the meeting today or it'll probably be early next week. So I'll send everything in a nice little package. But thanks for your work and helping all of our districts learn how to best communicate with our communities more effectively. All right, next we're going to continue our conversation, but we're going to move to a little bit more focus on the contamination. And Jane from Athens Hocking will take the floor along with Samantha.
Good morning from the most beautiful solid waste district in Ohio. Samantha, are you there? We have a fearless leader that is going to kick off our presentation. As soon as I get it up here. Here we go. Go ahead. Go ahead and I'll get the.
Okay. Great. Well, thanks again, everyone. So Matt gave you kind of a quick introduction to some of the things that are happening in Mahoning and Ottawa, Sandusky, Seneca, and Athens Hocking is our third grantee for this new phase of work with Ohio EPA. So again, thank you to Ohio EPA for providing funding for this opportunity. We first worked on curbside anti-contamination programs with them and are now working on drop-off programs and contamination reduction there as well, to kind of look at programs that are replicable for other areas and for other sites.
Can you guys see our screen?
Not quite yet. You have to hit the share button.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, that's what we did.
And then it should drop down a menu and then you can click onto your presentation.
There. Which one? This one? Yeah.
Oh, that's our screen. So you can go to like just share the presentation. Yeah, now it's sharing the screen. It should be. So now you can pull up the presentation.
Perfect.
Nope, it's not. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yep, we can see your presentation if you make it big and then
Yeah,
there
there
you
we
go.
go.
Fantastic.
All right, great.
Perfect.
Go ahead. Let's see.
All right. So just a few more bits of information about this phase. So we are working with, again, 3 grantees across 6 counties. So Athens and Hocking are 2 of those counties. There are 20 drop-off sites that we are targeting as part of this project, 8 across Athens and Hocking as well. And this is going to be reaching over 190,000 households with education. Again, 37,000 of those across Athens, Hocking, and 3 different MRF sheds as well. And again, you're looking at most of the team here as well. And there are also additional project recycling guides, which were onboarded to help with engagement. So Jane will talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. So we are really working on this project again because contamination is a big issue. We're showing that on average, we're seeing about 20% contamination rates, and that's across the country. That's drop off, that's curbside, that's urban, that's rural. This is an issue for everyone, and seeing a lot of the same problems in different places as well. I myself am here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and our MRF just yesterday was on fire yet again. So I know we are all facing these issues. So hopefully through these projects, again, we can find ways to kind of replicate that and help educate folks to recycle the right way. And before I hand it over to Jane, I just wanted to talk you through the key project components for all of these grants. So at the beginning of all of them, we are measuring, so getting a baseline contamination rate And all the grantees are doing these in different ways. Again, you're going to hear specifically from Athens Hawking and some of their strategies. We are then informing folks. We are doing that through direct mailers that folks are getting. They're receiving handouts at the drop-off sites. And Athens Hawking having a lot of fun with this and also installing some truck signs. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. Also looking at infrastructure, trying to get information on participation. So, you know, are these efforts not only driving down contamination, but driving more folks to the sites? And then engaging right at the sites. So actually talking with folks as they come in and then measuring again at the end to see those impacts and do some reporting. So I'll hand it over to Jane to tell you about the experience so far.
Okay, so the first thing that we had to do was, in order to begin the measurement part of the project, is we had to find out when people were recycling. We can't engage them unless we have a good sense. So we borrowed eco counters from the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, and we put them up at the 8 sites we were going to measure and work at. And as you can see on this chart, you know, a lot of recyclers come at 11 in the morning and then in the evening. And those aren't actual numbers because I think it double counted people, but it still shows you the numbers in a constructive way. Also, what these eco counters can do is track whether it's sunny, if it's daylight or not, if it's raining, so that you can detect that. With the eco counters that we got, we were able to get data by the hour of how many people were visiting at each location. We had eco counters at sites from 1 week to 3 weeks, depending on how busy they were. And as you can see, you can get charts to assess whether or not, well, on sunny, warm days, you're going to have more people recycling in the afternoon. But when it's raining, the recycling's down. So just interesting information that you can get. Also, you can find out whether your pickup of recyclables, if that has an effect on how many people come to the container. So this kind of eco counting, I think, is a good measurement just to kind of give you a sense of what the traffic's like, when they're coming out, and all of that. So that's part of the measurement. The second part of the measurement is actually to go to the locations to measure the contamination beforehand. As Samantha said, she and a team went out to the other 2 locations and actually did a hands-on audit. Well, I got to drive around the most beautiful district in the world and look inside containers. And we looked inside every single container, estimated how full it was, what the contaminants visible were, and then the estimated percentage of contamination in each container. As you can see, the cardboard and the mixed recycling have different types of contaminants, and that the cardboard's always filled. Okay, so we measured the contamination, we measured and got a sense of when people are coming out to the containers. So it was time to inform them. This is very similar to the other postcards that the Recycling Partnership sends out, but we did add our partners, we had our local information, and also what we were able to accept and what we don't want them. We have a big problem with plastic bags, a lot of people bagging recyclables, dumping garbage, and I don't know why, but shredded paper, and it's a nightmare at our drop-off locations. We dropped 37,000 of these within the district. On Earth Day, they landed, and we got an incredible number of calls afterwards saying, where can I recycle? And we were really excited about that. So this was our first inform. The next part is infrastructure. You kind of have to use the same branding for where people are going to recycle. So the first thing that we did was we did put out signs. They're kind of like yard signs, and it says recycling drop off with arrows. And we put those on main roads and led people to the drop off locations because we have a very, very rural area. Not like Wyoming, but like Ohio. At our larger locations, we had 4x6 sign installed with the same information as the postcard. Our recycling guides are giving out the cards with what to recycle and oops, you know, and listing the contaminants, and they mark it there, but it's information that they're going to give out. And then our trucks, although not clean trucks, the trucks look great with those new magnets on the side, which say don't bag recyclables. The next part is engage. We have five recycling guides that are covering our 8 sites. They work and out at the busiest times throughout the week, and they basically go out and greet people as they come to recycle. What we found is you should not ask the question, do you want to do a survey? Because everyone will say no. We did put it in our information, but you have to engage them with information. For instance, we have a household hazardous waste collection day coming up. And so we start with that. Do you want information about a household hazardous waste collection day coming up? And they say yes. And then you say, we're working on a grant to improve our recycling program. Could I ask you a few questions? And our recycling guides then go through a site. As you can see, they have iPads. This is Molly. She's at 2 locations. She knows everybody, so it's a perfect person to put there because it's kind of a person-to-person kind of thing. And then Candace is a pre-vet student at OSU, and she's doing 3 of our locations in Logan. So what they're doing is they're filling out on their iPads the NEST form, which is a program that Recycling Partnership has. And one of the things we learned is that in sunny days, it's really hard to see an iPad screen. So we're trying to deal with that right now. But these are some of the real quick questions that people are asking. Candace asks, the recycling drop-off location, she puts that in there, and then she identifies what the person's bringing to that's not acceptable. And what we found was we had to tell the recycling guides not to tell people not to put in styrofoam and then write no contamination. So that's a kind of a heads up. We asked them if they've taken the survey before, and if they say yes, then they're done. With a series of questions. We asked them what county they're from, what village, so that way we can see how far people are coming to a particular location. What we've found is that people don't necessarily use the one in their township. They go to the one that's nearest to their work, or where their kids go to school or whatever. So you can't necessarily count on that site is only being used by people in that particular area. We asked about residency, whether people live there year round or if they're a tourist, so that we can kind of measure whether or not we're getting the word out to tourists and the many Airbnbs we have here. We ask about current garbage service, because that way we can communicate to the various haulers that people are using our drop-offs. Please encourage them. Please recycle, all that kind of stuff. We also ask if recycling's offered at the residence or not, if they'd be willing to pay for recycling, how often do they visit, how do they learn about information, and how you would rate your knowledge to how to recycle. And I think that goes to the whole confusing. These numbers are really low so far on the surveys we're seeing, people really don't think they have a good sense of knowledge of recycling. So I would agree that that is pervasive for these. Today is the drop date for our follow-up issue mailing, which again is our informing people about what not to recycle. And so we said, don't bag recyclables, and then no plastic bags. We told them what to do with the bags, return them to retail, because our largest grocery stores, which are limited here, do accept plastic bags of all kinds. And then what we learned also was that people didn't know where the recycling drop-off locations were in the past. I mean, from the first mailer. So we listed the sites and where they are here in the district. So although it's fairly early, we're only week 3 into the engagement, we do have some lessons to share with you. And Alicia, my wonderful AmeriCorps, is going to review those.
Yeah, so good morning. My name is Alicia Caton. I'm the AmeriCorps member here with Jane. And yeah, just some lessons so far, just to kind of wrap up everything. So as Jane kind of mentioned, you know, surveying, doing that pre-outreach, surveying all the containers to create that baseline is really important for pre and post project data and information. Those people counters to learn the peak times for when people are recycling, and if, in fact, you know, whether you know, do change those habits and those routines, making sure that we're communicating where the drop-offs are, and that it is free, just because going back to the confusion thing, people need to know that it is a free 24/7 service for residents, and those direction signs, because we have a lot of back roads here, especially in the Hocking Hills. So, you know, getting those signs out there so it's easily, you know, people can navigate easily to our recycling locations. And the survey, testing the survey before the guides are out engaging on the ground, just to make sure that they can navigate it smoothly. So testing to make sure the questions are, you know, coming through okay, and just to, you know, make it much more easily manageable for those guides. And finding different ways, you know, if somebody does say no, finding encouraging ways to kind of motivate people to get them to participate in the survey, not just asking, do you want to take a survey, but finding those creative ways to engage them and inform them. And, you know, incorporating the garbage, the various haulers in our district. So getting that information from the residents is important, so we can have that data, and like Jane mentioned, talk with those haulers and encourage that they are promoting recycling right. And another, you know, important bit, where people are coming from when they're recycling. Are they coming from outside of the district because they live in Fairfield County and they work in Hocking County, or because their children, you know, it's closest to their school? So, you know, having that information is really key and very important. So it's some things that we've learned just a few months into the project, and I believe we have something special to share with you all. So we did.
We do, before we finish with our big hurrah, we did want to thank EPA and Recycling Partnership for selecting us. I know we're a very small district, but every penny that we can save from picking up contamination and reducing contamination and, you know, reducing the confusion in our area, it goes a long way. And so we really appreciate the patience of Samantha, and we're just excited, and we're also able to employ people in recycling this summer. And so the more that we can influx funding into our region in solid waste and recycling, the better. So anyway, go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you all for your support. So yeah, one quick thing that we want to share just to kind of wrap up our wonderful presentation is a recycling jingle that was created by, it was written by a local resident from Hocking County. We did a radio jingle contest for people to encourage recycling right. So we want to play our lovely jingle. These are the lyrics. It's a Clean the Stream is the name of the jingle, but we would love to play it. It's very catchy, so you'll be humming and tapping your feet all day long to it. So. Yeah, I don't know if it displayed entirely on the screen, but if you go.
Oh no,
Ladies.
no.
No, lady.
Sorry.
Lady. No, you're good. Ladies, thank you for sharing that. Unfortunately, there's a trick that we have to turn the sound on. So if you can just drop the link into the chat, and then everybody can kind of listen to it at their when they get a chance. So, but we got to see the video. It looks fantastic. I'm so excited. It's a teaser, so that drives everybody to your website so they can look at it as well. So hopefully there we go. We'll make that into a positive turn. But do you have anything else? I'm sorry, anything additional? I didn't mean to end your program like that. Now they're done.
No, we're here.
Okay, there you are.
Yeah, we didn't know that you couldn't play videos, so sorry about that, but I'll drop the thing in the chat. I just again want to thank the EPA and Recycling Partnership for this opportunity, and you know, we're learning and evolving, and hopefully we can share even more powerful lessons as we move forward. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for taking the time to share with us your efforts so far. It's very, very exciting to see what we can do on the land and change our programs and make them a little bit more efficient and make recycling better in Ohio. So thank you. Thanks, Sam, for also joining us today to help bridge and promote the recycling quality improvement grant. I do want to do a little plug. I know that April is on and has a little bit of time later down the road, but the Street on the Feet program was a Street on Feet on the Street. Sorry, program is an allowable proposed project in the Ohio EPA grant. So I'm certain April will talk more about that. Next up, we're going to just continue to develop upon our improving of recycling, and now we're moving to Goal 5 of our Solid Waste District Plan, working and talking with industries. And we have Ernie Stahl and Jessica Dizelle from the Ohio EPA to share with us their information.
Everybody can hear me. Oops, where'd it go? Where'd it go?
I'm still seeing it. It's not.
I'm not seeing mine.
It's good, Ernie.
No, I know, but no, I can't see my own presentation. There. Okay, sorry, everybody. So anyhow, I'm going to go over what Goal 5 and the new state plan. So I'm going to give you the bureaucratic, boring part of the presentation, and Jessica's going to come on and save the day with the exciting stuff. So just to go on and move forward. So I think most of you know that we adopted a new state plan towards the end of 2019. It's the 2020 state plan. And then we adopt the rules that made the state plan goals effective in December of 2020. So now all solid waste districts are required to meet the goals of the state plan once you start preparing your new plan. The change that was made, if you remember back, the old state plan had a goal of demonstrating that you recycled 66% of industrial solid waste. And the new state plan eliminated that old goal in favor of the goal to provide 3 programs, activities, or services to industrial generators. So why did we choose to do that? Well, first of all, I think everybody has experienced how hard it is to get data. People are in the business of business, not in the business of giving you data. So, and also there was some questions about data reliability. So we kind of made the decision that rather than pester them for data about stuff that was already happening, it would be better to try to help them further their efforts for improving their recovery. We had never ever before reached out to the industrial generators to find out what it was they would like or need to have offered to them. So we did some research effort. We talked to the Ohio Manufacturers Association Environmental Subcommittee to try to get an idea from them. It's the best way to contact industrial generators since surveying isn't ever seemed to be a success. We did speak with the Solid Waste District Education Specialist to find out what they're doing, and then Ohio EPA's pollution prevention staff to find out what it is they're seeing when they're actually out in the field in terms of what people might need in terms of industrial recycling. And then based on OMA's suggestion, we did a survey, which OMA helped us to promote it to their members, and then our Division Environmental and Financial Assistance included 2 email blasts in their newsletters. And we got 8 responses. So all of that effort, and we got 8 responses. I think that you can all sympathize with how that works. So at the end of the day, of the 8 people, here's what was most identified in terms of what they wanted or needed. So the first category we had asked about was outreach and education. What they indicated was that webinars, digital subscriptions like Facebook or other social media, any in-person networking opportunities, and then company recognition were all things that they were interested in. Jessica's going to be talking about, well, no, I guess maybe not. That's there. EPA does have a recognition program, the E3 program, which we can give you more information about that you could promote as a way of helping get company recognition. Another area that we asked about was technical assistance. And so what most of them, almost all 8 of them said they needed help finding a recycler for a specific material. Many of them indicated they need help in educating their employees on the proper way of recycling. There were a number that didn't have a recycling program, and then a couple of them mentioned that waste audits might be helpful. So Jessica's going to be talking about finding a recycler for a specific material, a project or a program that may help with that, and something that you can promote as one of your 3 programs. And then the last category we asked about was financial assistance. So as you can imagine, most companies want financial assistance to get their programs started, but the vast majority of them indicated that identifying and applying for grants would be very helpful to them. So that was the most responded answer that we got from people. So at the end of the day, this is a list of the programs that are currently in the state plan in terms of the types of projects or programs or activities that you can use to demonstrate meeting Goal 5. There's a catch-all at the very end, which is other programs or activities identified. And so, you know, the range of what you can provide is pretty wide, and it doesn't necessarily have to be really fancy or in-depth either. So that's what I've got. And Jessica, I will quit sharing so that you can take over.
Oh, here I was thinking you were gonna leave it up for me, but that's okay.
Oh, do you want me to? I can.
Yeah, I'll steal control from you if that's okay.
You want me to leave mine up and then you control it? Is that how you do it?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me go
You've
back.
already got it open.
Okay. There.
Okay. Hey everybody, my name is Jessica Dalzell and I'm with Ohio EPA's Recycling and Sustainability Unit. And like Ernie mentioned, I'm going to cover a couple of our programs that we can assist to help you with goal number 5 that Ernie was just talking about. So I think that you have to approve my taking of control. There we go. Oh, there it is. Perfect. Well, that's fun. Sorry, everybody, this is fun tech stuff. All right, there we go. We are good to go. Okay, so first I want to chat about the Ohio Materials Marketplace. The Ohio Materials Marketplace is a free online platform allowing businesses and organizations to connect and find reuse and recycling solutions for waste and byproduct challenges. Well, there we go. The goal of the marketplace is to aid in creating a circular economy in Ohio. OHM connects businesses, organizations, and entrepreneurs to develop and scale reuse and recycling market opportunities. Through the Ohio Materials Marketplace, traditional and non-traditional waste streams are matched with new reuse and recycling opportunities that can aid in landfill diversion, carbon reduction, cost savings, energy savings, and new job opportunities. This platform aids both public and private sectors in reaching our region's climate action goals and equity goals. I'm having a heck of a time, Myrnie. I should have just taken it from you. So what does the success of the platform look like? Well, to date, we have about 1,500 members on the Ohio Materials Marketplace alone, and then there are members throughout the country as well. On other platforms that are similar to ours, these members have diverted more than 130 million pounds of materials from the landfill, and this has resulted in more than $300,000 in reported savings from our members. Jeez. Okay, so how does it work? The Ohio Materials Marketplace allows members to post both wanted ads and available materials. So as you can see here on this screenshot, there is a wanted listing up in the top left-hand corner, and that's for used stainless steel tanks. This means that member is hoping to source the product through the marketplace, and then all of the other listings on the screen are for available materials, meaning that these members have a product that they are trying to find a new use or recycling opportunity for outside of their organization. The platform allows for you to select specific categories to view listed materials within the categories on the left-hand side of the screen, or you could also view the materials geographically by switching to the map view. When you click on a listing, all relevant information posted with the listing will appear on the new screen like the pop-out here on the right. And that provides information such as a photo, a description, amount of product, frequency of product generation, and any safety information that the member has to offer. On the marketplace, starting conversations with other members regarding their listings is crucial in sourcing a material and establishing a synergy. So once you click on the listing, you can start communicating with the owner of the listing by clicking on the Start Conversation button there that you see in the blue. Within your conversation, you can ask about any additional details you need, transportation logistics, or any recurring partnerships that may be possible. Sorry, this is really a struggle. Okay, so here is a short list of some of the materials that have been exchanged on the marketplace. One of our largest transactions that we've had to date was for spent lime from a water treatment process, and that then was used as a soil amendment to balance the pH on agricultural fields. One of my favorite transactions that has occurred on the marketplace was between a manufacturer that regularly went through conveyor belts and a children's camp. So the conveyor belts were accepted by the children's camp and then used in horse stalls in place of the more expensive customized rubber mats that traditionally go in the stalls. This slide highlights the successes that we've had, that we did have in 2022. Most notably on the infographic, we're super proud of the reoccurring transaction that resulted in 62,000 tons of acrylic powders finding a new use. So that tonnage is really significant and we're very proud of that. So far in 2023, we have had 7 reported transactions, almost 150 tons of diverted materials, and 44 new members. So again, the marketplace is continuing to grow. Some recent reuse examples that we have had lately. One of the more common ones that we get is medical equipment being reused by a nonprofit that donates to communities in need. Specifically, they've taken tabletop centrifuges, hand sanitizers, things like that. Recently, some Rubbermaid recycling stations were taken by a nonprofit that is working on finding outlets for textile scrap. Some glycol solution was accepted to be processed and resold as a winterizing solution. IBC storage totes are regularly on the platform. Some common reuses that we've seen are as rain collection systems, specifically one at a dental office. Railroad ties, we've seen reused by landscapers, typically for their landscape architecture. And then wood storage crates. This one is one of my recent favorites. They have been accepted by a local community garden to be used as raised garden beds. So that one I find super exciting. All right, and I also want to highlight our Marketplace Monday post. We know that it is difficult to keep an eye on the platform at all times. So we do feature regular postings with current items on the Marketplace. So feel free to follow Ohio EPA on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram to see these posts. We usually try to identify some reuse opportunity for whatever product we're posting about as well. All right, and now on to the recycling directory. So the recycling directory is run by Retrack, and it is a searchable directory of Ohio recycling service providers who have volunteered to be listed on the site. So again, it's searchable. Any Ohioan can hop on there and type in a material that they're looking to recycle. So it is just an easy solution to find recycling opportunities near you. You can search specific items or preset categories, and at the end of the presentation, I'll show some of the more common items that are searched. And then the results include curbside recycling programs, drop-off locations, reuse stores, and more. Oops, it just does not go as quick as I want it to. All right, so this screenshot is an example of what would happen if you were to search for or how to recycle a refrigerator in your area. So the area is currently set at Columbus, and you type in refrigerator, and it pops up different facilities that would be willing to accept your refrigerator. So then you are able to click on the profile, take a look at the details that has contact information, their website information, specific breakdown of the items that they take and how they take them, etc. And as you can see here on the left, some of these postings are a little outdated. So we are currently working on reaching out to the recyclers and making sure that we have all of the up-to-date information so that we can provide the best information to Ohioans. This next example here is similar, again, searching for lumber this time around. So if somebody was building a deck or has extra 2x4s laying around their house that they'd like to recycle, they can hop onto the directory and type in lumber or wood, and again, pop up some of these listings that they can scroll through and see what is most applicable to them or closest to them, and then find a recycling opportunity for their scrap wood. And as promised, here are some top searches. So the top one there is for Cincinnati. So these are some of the top items that are frequently requested on the recycling directory to find recycling opportunities for. So you see batteries, antifreeze, TVs, paint, refrigerators, used oil, etc. The bottom one is the same, but for Cleveland. So you can kind of see that there are some similarities. A lot of big electronics, some of the household hazardous waste that people don't know what to do with. So if you or anybody you know would like to be listed on the recycling directory, feel free to reach out to me and we are happy to get a profile started for whatever recycler organization reuse opportunity there would be. Same for the Ohio Materials Marketplace. If you're not already on the marketplace and you're interested, feel free to reach out. We also can provide any solid waste management districts some marketing material if you'd like to share that. I can make sure that you have the infographic and our palm card, all that good stuff. And then I think that we have time for questions, but Lindsay, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
You definitely have time for questions. Thanks for taking some time today to share this information across the state. I think it's definitely a valuable resource that I started to dabble in when I was out in the districts or out in the district, but I really didn't use it to the advantage that I've learned how powerful of a tool these things can be now that I'm on this side of the street. So does anybody have any questions for Jessica? Well, you and Ernie did a fantastic job then. Don't see any questions. Oh, there's a question. Woohoo! Go Lou.
Hi, I hope you can hear me. As far as the recycling directory that you guys have, can districts contribute to that? Where, especially on smaller places that aren't contributing the information to Ohio EPA?
Yeah, in terms of like providing information for a specific recycler or for what your drop-off locations take, can you provide a little more info?
We have our own recycling directory here in Mahoning County, but yours looks way better because we are limited to an antiquated content management system that we're not allowed to get off. So basically, I'm trying to dump my recycling directory into your recycling directory and just link it off our site.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that. If you want to reach out to me, we can absolutely set up a meeting. And if there is an easy way to get us like an Excel spreadsheet or something of the members that you currently have on your recycling directory, we can then input it into ours. But yeah, if you just want to reach out to me, we can definitely set something up to make that happen.
Will do. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lou. It looks like Matt has something to add on to that.
Sure. I just wanted to respond to him, to Lou, to know that when we set this up, we definitely reached out to all the districts and let them know. And that's why we had this recycling directory tagged on. I was just thinking about some of the districts that didn't have the resources to do mapping on their websites. And you can totally use it to put your drop off network on there and then just link it to the recycling directory. We've been in talks with the makers of Retrack since the inception of the ADRs going on Retrack to see if we can have that address field that's put into the ADRs talk to the recycling director, so we do not have to have it. So that way, at least every year, you're going to go in there and look and make sure everything's updated. We're really reluctant to put all of our drop-offs in there statewide and then have them go outdated and not have them updated. But if you guys want to take responsibility for your own drop-offs, you can go ahead and put it in there. We actually have a meeting tomorrow, and that's one of the topics we're going to be discussing with the makers of Retrack to see if maybe that technology is out there now to incorporate those two things talking to each other.
Yeah, and I will say that the current recycling directory is a little bit cumbersome in the sense that the recycler has to go on and individually list all of the items that they recycle so that those items are then searchable when somebody is typing in what they're looking to recycle. So it's not the best, but it is very helpful. And we think it's a great tool that we would love to get out there more.
I just want to add, it's probably still as cumbersome or it's probably better than ours, because if you type in, just say corrugated, they won't recognize that you're talking about cardboard. So if you don't have the exact phrasing down, you miss the entire search.
Missed it.
Okay, interesting.
Good conversations, and I think it does have some potential to grow, especially as technology continues to develop. You know, it's a great tool, and if we can get it to start working for all of us better, that then we all win. So thank you, Jessica, for all you do on making these two items available and functionable for all of us to utilize in our programs. Next up is April.
Good morning, everyone. Let me get my PowerPoint set up here. 1 second. Hopefully I won't also have technology issues. No promises. Let me know when it pops up. Can everybody see it? All right, thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to do a brief update on some of the things that Jessica didn't cover with our group. So, we have kind of the sustainability stuff, and then we also have, the recycling aspect with the grant program. So I'm going to go over the grant real quick, and then our Encouraging Environmental Excellence work program as well, real quickly. So again, just an overview for everyone. I know a lot of you are grantees, applicants, and very familiar with the program, but in case anyone's not, so the Recycling and Litter Prevention Grant Program has 4 different grant types. This is kind of based on sort of who you are and then what you want to do. So the community and litter, which the solid waste management districts are eligible for, are academic institutions for K through 12 and colleges and universities. Our market development grant, which is for for-profit businesses and who work with a government sponsor, which quite a few of you have played that role with us as well. And then our scrap tire grant. And then with the eligible applicants, I kind of already went through those, so I won't go over that any longer. And this is just a brief list. The list is much longer of the types of activities that you can do. So, our biggest amount of grants typically come from the litter cleanup and tire amnesty events. We just added the water bottle refilling stations. We had our second round of that here with the regular grant round. We did that special round last summer. We do curbside and drop-off recycling equipment. And then we also do the education and marketing, like Lindsay mentioned, and then, like you heard about from the recycling partnership today, we can do those behavioral studies. We can do the feet on the street, where you go look into the, the curbside bins. We can do the drop-off like we're doing right now with the study that Matt talked about. So all of those are covered. Then, recycling infrastructure, equipment, C&DD collection and processing equipment. The scrap tire grant covers processing and civil engineering projects using scrap tires, and also the, just the processing of the tires themselves. Conference sponsorships and a whole lot more. So this year, we got 178 applications. That's a big number, mainly because of that water bottle refilling station. The addition of that grant type has really boosted the numbers. So those are much smaller grants. Those are 5,000 per school or 10,000 per school district. So we came in just a little over 8.5 million with our grant applications. We were able to secure some additional funding from Controlling Board again, as we've done in the last 2 years. So that was allowed us to fund 165 of those 178. I think that's about 93% funding rate, which is fantastic. We spent, again, just like last year, we spent every penny we had. In fact, I've got fiscal scrounging, moving money around so that I could fund this 165. I think they would have preferred I cut it off about 50 grand before this, but we wanted to award as many projects as we could. So we came in at just over 6.8 million. So we're super thrilled about that. If you have applied, you hopefully heard something last Friday from us. If you haven't heard anything and you've applied, please reach out and let me know. Check your spam filters. We sent the email out to the project contact that was listed when they applied. So if things have changed, if you've had some change in management and we sent it to the wrong email, just reach out and let me know, and we will let you know the results of your application. So that is what's going on with the grant program. We did also kind of at the same time do a round for Encouraging Environmental Excellence. We decided to put a deadline on that for the 2023 award class because we wanted to be able to award in groups. We had opened it up so you could apply anytime, but we weren't really getting a whole lot of applications. I think it didn't really put any urgency urgency to it. So we just added a deadline to that. That was April 30th. And we have 3 different grant types with that. We have our standard encouraging environmental excellence, which is for for-profit businesses, organizations, colleges, our encouraging environmental excellence in communities, which is for local government partners, and then our encouraging environmental excellence in education, which is for K through 12 schools. So this year we had another record number. So we actually got 51 applicants for the program, which is probably about twice what we're usually doing. It's definitely significantly higher than the last couple of years. With the pandemic, with change in staff, we were understaffed for a bit, didn't really have time to focus on this. So we did a big push last year and got 51 applications. So just kind of wanted to brag a little bit on that. And also to remind you all that if you know of businesses, schools, organizations, local governments in your districts that are doing some really cool things and are really good examples of environmental stewardship, please suggest that they look into this program. You can forward us, their contact, or you can have them reach out to us and we can take it from there. But we do really want to make sure that we're recognizing the good work that people are doing across the state through this program. And we're hoping to do an in-person recognition event for this, but we will definitely be showcasing these award winners on our website through press releases, and then in our sustainability conference in September, we will make sure to highlight them as well. So that is all I have today. And again, I'll throw this slide up again. I know Jessica just had it out, but this is the small but mighty recycling and sustainability unit. We're down a couple of staff and hopefully adding to them in the next couple of months. But please reach out if you have any questions, or if you have any right now, happy to answer any.
Thank you, April. I know everybody was emailing us about when is the grant information going to come out. So thanks for clarifying that did go out last Friday. And congratulations on all the work that you do of trying to find additional dollars for all of our districts and other businesses across the state of Ohio. So thank you for that. That does conclude the program or the presentation portion of our meeting today. We do have 10 minutes left for solid waste management districts to jump on any updates or other organization updates that you might have to share with the group. I know that for us, we did send out a DEMWIM newsletter about a week or two ago, and within that there was a business recycling check-in meeting highlighted, and that is coordinated by our Cuyahoga County folks, and their next meeting will be June 14th and 10 a.m. That's a Zoom meeting. And then the educator group is a quarterly meeting, and that next meeting will be August 10th. So if you have educators or are focusing on business recycling, make sure to join those two groups in check-in meetings, because they're very helpful in troubleshooting and navigating different hurdles that we face on a daily basis out in the communities. Other additional updates that were sent to me prior to share are the Partners Conference will be October 23rd through the 25th in Cincinnati. Hopefully you all have that on your calendars already. The KOB annual meeting will be in November, on November 8th from 9 to 3 at the Nationwide Ohio Farm Bureau 4-H Center at the Ohio State University campus in Columbus. If you're not a Keep Ohio or a Keep Ohio Beautiful affiliate, that is an applicable piece for the Ohio EPA grant. You can put in for membership or your affiliate fees to be helped covered. And then there will be a training for Keep America Beautiful Affiliate Hub, which is a new rollout for those members. As Erica mentioned, there is a Shine on Light on dumpers. The AG Yost launched an initiative to help communities expose dumpers who trash Ohio. It's called the Shine a Light on Dumpers. It is a multi-pronged campaign designed to expose illegal open dumping of solid waste, including scrap tires, demolition debris, and more. You can check out their website, the Ohio General's Office. The phase 1 has a lot of educational and informational resources on there, and then they're eventually going to be adding some beefed up funds towards law enforcement. So that's something to check out as well. And hopefully some of you have some updates that you would like to share as with the group. Feel free to jump on or raise your hand. All right. I have seeing none. I thank you for attending today's work group meeting. Our next work group meeting will be in person, and that will be August 10th. In not certain where do we have those at, but you'll get some information on where we'll have that meeting. August 10th will be a different day than our typical time, but it will be in conjunction with OSWATO. Again, that will be an in-person meeting, and our focus will be on organics. So the work group meeting will be on organics. And we do have Ernie on board to talk about your question of updates on Senate Bill 119.
Aren't you proud of me for remembering not to turn my mic on? We do not have an update to provide. We're currently as an agency looking at it and figuring out how to respond to. So I don't really have any updates. I know that they do continue to make changes to the bill and committee, and we've seen a couple of updates to that, which should still be posted to the legislature's webpage. So sorry, I don't have anything to provide. We're still working on our comments internally.
Good question. All right. Well, thanks again for everyone for joining, and we hope that you have a wonderful summer until August, and we will see you again. Thanks. Have a great day.